Well, Daniel Craig had a good run. Hi, my name is Charles, and today I'm going to be ranking all of Daniel Craig's Bond movies. And I gotta say, I honestly was gonna just, review his latest movie, his last movie actually, No Time to Die. But I thought to myself, I might as well just do a video, ranking all of his Bond movies. And then when I get to No Time to Die, I'll talk about that a little bit more than the other movies. Daniel Craig has been James Bond for 15 years at this point, and that's a long time. I'm not really the biggest fan of James Bond, like movies in general, but that has to be the longest run an actor has played James Bond, right? As I said, I'm not the biggest James Bond fan, and to be honest, the first time I ever saw a James Bond movie was when Skyfall came out. I remember when that came out, and I said, I've never seen a James Bond movie, so let me just see this movie. And that movie was amazing. And after that, I was like, I guess I should continue on. So I watched Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, and I was like, okay, whenever the next movie's gonna come out, we're gonna follow it with that. But other than Daniel Craig as James Bond, I've only ever seen Timothy Dalton as James Bond. I've seen all of Timothy Dalton's movies. I think within this past year, I saw all his James Bond movies. But other than Daniel Craig and Timothy Dalton, I really haven't seen any other, actor play James Bond. A lot of people say that Sean Connery is the James Bond that they love, so I will eventually get to the Sean Connery of it all, but until then, I'm just like, Daniel Craig for me is my favorite James Bond. But anyways, Daniel Craig has 5 movies under his belt as James Bond, and as I said, this video is just me ranking all 5 of them, so yeah, without further ado, let's go and do this. Okay, so at the bottom of the list would have to be, for me, Quantum of Solace. This movie was... ooh, many problems. Many problems. First of all, I remember the opening sequence. It was like a car chase or something. I watched this in college, in I think my first or second year of college, way back in 2016 or 17. And when I was watching it, I was just like, what is the editing that's going on? Is this gonna be how the movie really goes on, like with this bad editing? And honestly, by the time the movie ended, my mind said, the editing was so bad that I could not focus on this movie at all. Not only was the editing really bad, but the story was not that good. And that's because, the writer's strike was happening at the time, and, Daniel Craig and I think the director of the movie, Mark Forster maybe, the two of them had to write the movie themselves, and I'm just saying, some people cannot write, and it shows. But yeah, Quantum of Solace, all I remember is really badly edited movie, car chase at the start, a burning building at the end, and yeah, nothing else really stuck with me other than that. I mean, is the movie about him avenging Ava Green's, what is her name? Vespa Lind. Girl. Vespa is that girl. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's like the gist of Quantum of Solace, that he's trying to avenge her death that was at the end of Casino Royale. But if you ask me to tell the story beats of Quantum of Solace, I could not tell you. Seriously, that Rotten Tomatoes score is bad. 64%, and the audience score isn't that good either. And honestly, I'm pretty sure I gave this such a low score on my letterbox. It was bad. It was bad, y'all. Moving on to number 4 on my list, I have down Spectre. I recently rewatched Spectre in order to prepare for No Time to Die, and when I tell you I fell asleep in the last 30 minutes, oh my god. 1 minute, more like James is trying to save Lea Seydoux, Madeline Swan, and then I was like, oh my god, my eyes. And the next thing I know, they're driving off into the sunset. Did they drive? I'm pretty sure they drove off into the sunset. I just rewatched the movie, and I cannot recall if they drove. I'm pretty sure they drove off. But that movie, it was not bad, but it was not great either. When I come to a James Bond movie, I'm really expecting really good action sequences, and when it comes to Spectre, I really think it fizzled out after the initial first 30 minutes of the movie. After that, everything just becomes so plain and boring, and it doesn't help that the movie overall just doesn't look that visually attractive. It was a lot of earth tones, and earth tones are not my favorite to look at when I'm watching a movie, especially for the whole movie. A lot of desert, and it was not for me, baby. You know what they say in movies, a hero is only as good as their villain, and Christoph Waltz in this movie just wasn't being a good enough villain. I thought to myself, oh, that's it? That's it? Okay. When he had, James strapped down to that chair and he was drilling into him, I said, oh, this is it? Okay, I mean, sure. And then at the end, I was like, okay, you caught him, and what? Like, I know he like spared him. He's like, I'm not gonna kill you, but my mind said the capturing of him was just so anticlimactic. Like he was escaping in a helicopter, and then him and Madeline were like on that boat, and then he was shooting the helicopter down, and then he shot the helicopter down, and my mind said, oh, exciting. Seriously, I had to rewind the movie when I recently watched it to be like, how did we get from him trying to save Madeline in like the old building to them driving away? And then I was like, oh yeah, the whole like them escaping through a speedboat in like the bottom of the building in the waterway, and then them shooting down Christoph Waltz in the helicopter. That all happened, but it was boring to watch, and my mind said maybe that's why you fell asleep, because this was boring. At the end of the day, Spectre, it's not a bad James Bond movie, but it's just so plain that I was like, it doesn't really amount to much in my opinion. It's above Quantum of Solace because Quantum of Solace, the story's bad, I don't remember really anything about it, and the editing was just horrible. It like really destroyed that movie, so Quantum of Solace is obviously at the bottom, but Spectre just has to follow up because it's just so plain and boring. Okay, number 3 on my list would have to be the recently released No Time to Die, and I gotta say, this was a really good way for Daniel Craig to end his run as James Bond, in my opinion. I just think this movie is super well done. It's really well made, top to bottom, and I think that Cary Fukunaga did an amazing job not only directing the movie, but writing it. The writers of this movie were both Cary and Phoebe Waller-Bridges, and there was one other person who did the screenplay too, but the three of them really did an amazing job writing this movie because the story really is one of the great points of this movie, along with all the actors and, you know, the visuals in this movie. Because unlike Spectre, this movie was able to like mix it up with all the places they went to. So they had a variety of locations, and I feel like that really hindered Spectre because Spectre, it was really a lot of desert for a lot of the times, so it was just but with this movie, it had a variety of locations to choose from, and they went to like basically all around the world. It was a globe-trotting adventure, this movie was, so it was just more visually appealing too. So No Time to Die, at the end of the day, it really had everything that makes a good James Bond movie in my opinion, including really good action sequences and really, you know, witty dialogue. I love Daniel Craig in this movie, but I gotta say the girlies in the movie were eating him up. And who are these girlies, you may ask? Well, of course, Lashana Lynch, and also, you know, Lea Seydoux, Anna de Armas. Ooh, Anna de Armas in this movie. Wow. You know, also Naomi Harris, and also Ben Whishaw because he's gay, so he gets to be included in the girly section. But those 5 people in the movie, I was like, they ate you up, Daniel. Like, if they had more screen time, they would be even more talked about. But of course, you are the lead, so of course, you were the spotlight. But I gotta say, if any one of those 5 like stole the show from Daniel, I would have to say it probably was Anna de Armas because she was very striking. And then right behind Anna would have to be Lashana, and then behind Lashana it would be Leia, and then it'd be Ben, and then Naomi. Sorry, Naomi, you had very little to do in this movie. Even more little than Ben Whishaw, who finally got cued to be getting in the Bond franchise, so win for us. When it comes to Rami Malek and Billy Magnussen, the whole time in that movie, I was just like, choices. Choices were made by both of you, which feels both very on brand for both of you. Both of the actors, I was like, you are both doing things that are very in brand for you. But yeah, No Time to Die. It's a very thrilling movie, a very well-made movie, and it's a movie I really want to watch again. I was late a few minutes for when the movie actually started because I was at work and then I had to rush in the movie theater after work. So I kind of missed, like, I guess the first 5 minutes when it was showing the backstory of, like, child, you know, Madeline Swan. But I got the gist when I walked in because I watched Spectre. I was like, oh, this is probably the backstory of, you know, Madeline Swan, because I paid enough attention during Spectre to be like, Madeline Swan said, like, people came to her house once as a kid, and, like, she knows how to use a gun, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, this is probably backstory because she's with James at the end of Spectre, so clearly there has to be something with her and the villain of this movie, aka Rami Malek. So walking in, I was like, I kind of get what's happening, so it's fine that I'm late. Honestly, I don't understand why the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie is so middle 80%. I think it should be at least high 80s because I really enjoyed it, even though I only gave it a 4 out of 5 on my Letterboxd review because I think that while it was a really well-made movie, it didn't push the boundaries in terms of stunts. Like, there were a lot of cool stunts in the movie, but I feel like there was a lot of CGI used for certain, like, you know, sequences in the movie, and I couldn't help but think to myself, If this was Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, this bitch would say, this isn't going to be a CGI going down in this stealth plane down the sky. We are actually going to be doing this in real life. And, I just think that the Mission Impossible movies have really raised the bar in terms of like modern day spy movies. So I just really don't know where Bond's going to go from here, especially with that ending. So I'm very hopeful to see what they do, but I don't know. I don't know how James Bond is gonna continue like working in this current movie landscape we are in right now. Anyways, moving on to movie number 2 on my list, I have down Skyfall. And as I said earlier, Skyfall was the first ever James Bond movie I ever saw, and I was really just delighted while watching it in the theaters. I think Sam Mendes did an amazing job, directing Skyfall. Skyfall is just a really impressive movie. Everything in Skyfall really is just impressive. It feels small in scope because the story is very personal, but also it feels grand and large because, like No Time to Die, we are globe-trotting, so it feels very big, but at the same time, as I just said, personal because of the story with M, so I just felt there was a lot really going for Skyfall. Also, the Adele theme song for this movie, Skyfall, whew, my favorite Bond theme song. Granted, I've only heard a few Bond theme songs, but I gotta say, Adele, Skyfall really deserved that Oscar. It really deserved that Oscar. Unlike, Sam Smith winning for Writing on the Wall for Spectre. And that's not it. That's not it. But, No Time to Die's theme song by Billie Eilish. I actually liked it more when I was watching the credits at the start of the movie, so I wouldn't be mad if she won the Oscar for that, Bond theme song. But Adele's Skyfall theme song, who does a lot to set the movie up at the start after, James Bond falls into like the lake after he gets shot off the train by Naomi Harris by accident. Like the whole credit sequence was amazing. And they used the score for Skyfall throughout the movie, and that score haunting. But yeah, Skyfall. I really love Skyfall, and I really should rewatch it because I haven't watched it in years. I was gonna rewatch it for like No Time to Die, but at the end of the day, I only had enough time to watch one movie, and I said, I guess it should be Spectre because that was the last movie, but I kind of regret that now because Skyfall really is amazing. I love the scene when Javier Bardem has, Daniel Craig in that chair, and then he like opens his thighs and he's all like some, and then like he's touching his chest, and then he's like, then James Bond is all like, this isn't the first time I've done it with a man, basically, and I was like gagged. I recently read somewhere that Barbara Broccoli had to really fight to keep that scene in because like some of the executives really weren't feeling the scene, but she was like, you guys gotta trust me. And when it turned out to be a really big hit with people, she was like, see, I told you. And honestly, to me, it makes sense that James Bond would have been with both men and women, because he's an international spy. I mean, Jesus, spies have to use their charm if they're really good looking, so it makes sense that, James Bond has slept with both men and women, even though, like, I guess Bond has had, like, a history of being more of a ladies' man. If you want to stay, more current and modern, it makes more sense to be like, yes, he will sleep with anyone to get, like, the information he needs and get what he wants. But, the people who are very, like, traditionalist James Bond, I guess, probably didn't like that scene. At the end of the day, when I think about Skyfall, I think about, Adele's amazing theme song, the amazing visuals, Javier Bardem's really good villain, and the personal story, because really, other than No Time to Die, I would say, I don't think any of the other movies felt really personal. And I really like personal stuff in movies, so I just felt like Skyfall really had everything that I liked in a movie, especially an action movie. Okay, we finally made it to the number 1 movie on my list, and of course, it is Casino Royale, because it is the movie that started off, Daniel Craig's run as James Bond, and it really is an impressive movie. Honestly, Casino Royale has it all. It is super stylish. It really introduced the world to a more violent, bloodier James Bond, one that's like really willing to go there. Because I think in 2006, we were really going through a time of, we want things to be more realistic and gritty and dark and more violent. So, the Bond franchise, like, kind of changed into that with, Casino Royale, especially with the opening sequence of James and that guy in the bathroom. It was very, like, bloody, and I think that really was a really good opening way to say, this is who James Bond is now. There are so many good sequences in this movie that have me gooped and gagged even now. The sequence where he's, like, chasing after that guy in the construction, like, zone, and then through, like, the embassy. Ooh, when I watched the movie recently for its like anniversary, I was like, this movie, oh my god, amazing. When you're talking about villains, I would have to say that Mads Mikkelsen is the best Bond villain that, Daniel Craig went up against because he was doing the work. He was doing the work. The sequence with the chair in that ship and he like stripped down like James to like nothing and then was like whacking his crotch with that rope thing. I said, this is both hot, erotic, like all the words for wow, wow, but also like painful and torturous. My God, Mads Mikkelsen, Mads Mikkelsen, bitch better have my money, Mads Mikkelsen. Whew. Also, who could forget about the iconic Ava Green in this movie? Because she was so good as Vespa Lind in this movie. It was something I really loved to watch, and the end of Vespa Lind in this movie, in that sinking building in Venice, in the elevator, and then James trying to save her, and then the way she looked in the elevator, and then her screaming go, and then her dying. Iconic. Iconic. Seriously, who do you know who could haunt a character throughout 4 different movies? I mean, my God, Quantum of Solace basically is her being avenged by James Bond. That's the whole premise of that movie. Like, he's getting revenge for her. And, like, her shadow looms in every other James Bond movie. And they really use her image in basically every other James Bond movie that Daniel Craig has been in after Casino Royale. So, Ava Green, she did that. She did that. And when they blew her like tomb up at the start of No Time to Die, I said the disrespect to Vespa Lind. How dare you, Christoph Waltz? Martin Campbell really fucked it up. As in like the good fucked it up. Not the bad fucked it up, but like he really fucked it up when it came to Casino Royale. And I can see why this is the highest rated, movie from all of Daniel Craig's Bond movies on Rotten Tomatoes. It deserves it. Anyways, that was my ranking of all of Daniel Craig's Bond movies. I gotta say, if you look at all 5 of his movies, it's a real big pattern because you have bang, a hit with Casino Royale, then a flop with Quantum of Solace, then you have bang, a hit with Skyfall, and then you have a not so bad movie but still movie with Spectre, and then you have No Time to Die, which is a big win for me, in my opinion. But I don't get why the RT score is so low. But honestly, looking at Daniel Craig's movies, I'm just like, sometimes you just gotta win one then lose one after the other. So tell me down below in the comments what your guys' rankings of all 5 of Daniel Craig's James Bond movies are. I mean, I know there are some people who really, for some reason, like Quantum of Solace, and there are some people who think that Skyfall is the best one and not Casino Royale, but as I said, I gave you my reasonings why I put all the movies in the places they are at, so I kind of want to hear what other people's thoughts are and what their rankings are. Anyways, you guys, thank you for coming to my channel and watching this whole video, and yeah, I'll see you guys around in the next video if you're around for that. So until then, I'm gonna go now, so yes, bye!